is special counsel Robert Mueller's boss, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. We are now learning Rosenstein has had his own questions about recusing himself. That has been a growing call from the president's allies since he first began overseeing the Russia probe and Mueller's team. So let's get right to CNN Justice reporter Laura Jarrett, who has these exclusive details. Also with us, CNN contributor Norm Eisen, who is a former ambassador, also served as Obama White House ethics czar. But Laura, just first to you, you've got the scoop. What do you know?
Well, Brooke, for nearly a year, people have questioned how Rod Rosenstein has been able to oversee Mueller's probe, given that he was a witness to a key event in the firing of FBI Director James Comey in May. But we're now learning that Rod Rosenstein hasn't been making these decisions in a vacuum, but rather he has consulted with the career ethics official at the Justice Department about his ability to continue overseeing this probe, and he has followed that official's advice, I'm told. Now, of course, the president and his allies have come after Rosenstein hard this week. We saw Alan Dershowitz calling for his recusal. And you remember even President Trump tweeting back last June saying, I quote, "I'm being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director." But Brooke, ethics officials that I've talked to and other legal experts tell me that Rosenstein is doing the right thing here, playing it by the book, consulting with career officials as Attorney General Jeff Sessions did on his own recusal.
All right, Laura, with the scoop. Thank you, Laura Jarrett. Ambassador Eisen, let me go to you. Just reacting to, you heard Laura say, by the book, the notion that Rosenstein has been consulting with this senior ethics advisor at the DOJ and decided, despite being, the target of the president's ire, to stay on.
Thanks for having me back, Brooke. And I think that it is the right decision. Professor Painter, President Bush's ethics czar, and myself have written today an analysis in USA Today explaining that under the applicable ethics rules, Rosenstein does not have to recuse himself yet. Most of these rules focus around the moment at which a prosecutor is clearly going to have to be a witness at trial. You ought to be vigilant before that. You want to do the right thing. You want to appear to be doing the right thing. But I would not have advised him to recuse up to now. If you think about it, Brooke, it gives the president the power to knock out a supervisor who he clearly doesn't like by saying, oh, that person is a witness. We know he doesn't like Rosenstein.
But why is this coming up right now, right? We know that he wrote the Comey memo, which is what the president used in the justification of firing him. I mean, why not consult with this ethics advisor a year ago?
I am sure that Rosenstein, like Sessions, has been consulting with the ethics authorities all along.
Gotcha.
I have no doubt, but it is important with the advice that the ethicists, which I'm speculating, but confidently speculating, Brooke, the advice that the ethicists gave him up to now has been sound advice, because you need someone senior to oversee the Mueller investigation, to appoint a special counsel. With the AG out, the DAG has been the right person to do that.
And Brooke,
okay.
Brooke, I
Please,
can add
Gloria,
something
yeah.
to this. I spoke with somebody who is a close friend of Rod Rosenstein's just this morning, and he's clearly aware that he's on the chopping block. And this friend said to me, there's a strange calm, is the way he put it, to Rod in terms of his firing. He said he's just doing his job. He's a stoic guy. He's a pretty fatalistic person. He's like, this is a job. I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to do it as long as I'm asked to do it.
All right, so if he's calm, let's sort of juxtapose his mood with that of the president. You had some colorful reporting, and I want you to get into that in just a second here. The adjectives I wrote down that you got from a source familiar with knowledge of how the president feels: pissed, flailing, and upset. How is Trump going to react to this?
Look, that's the way he is. He's angry. He's upset. And let me set the scene for you a little bit.
Please.
I talked with a couple of sources who are close to the president, who said a week ago the president was pretty sanguine. He was in a good mood. He thought that he was finally getting the cabinet that he wanted. He was getting the issues out there that he wanted. He was talking about tariffs. He had gotten tax reform. He was talking about his poll numbers. He thought his poll numbers were going up. So he was in a good place. At this point, and I believe the tipping point is the raid on Michael Cohen, and we saw that all for ourselves when the president spoke to reporters the other day, how angry he is. And I had one source say to me that this is beyond what anyone can imagine. And another source said to me that the president is effectively becoming unmanageable, and that everybody's kind of counseling him, you have to kind of get through this and figure out what your next steps are. And, his friends believe that will occur. But for now, you have a very unhappy president. And by the way, Brooke, it's easy to understand why, isn't it? I think given the fact that the Michael Cohen situation is on his plate, the Comey book is coming out, to which he's already responded. He's got a crisis in Syria. He's got to prepare for talks in North Korea. And he's dealing with these other personal issues, and his personal attorney's office being raided. I think it's, we can understand why he would be flailing, as one person put it, and upset.
The fact that his own attorney showed up at the federal courthouse in New York, which we'll get into in a second, trying to keep those, FBI seized materials that Michael Cohen had away from the government. So, yes, context is important.
Sure.
Just, Mr. Ambassador, hearing all of that, right? Hearing how the president is feeling, hearing how Rod Rosenstein is feeling, calm, kind of a fatalistic guy. What do you think of all that?
Well, Brooke, the president brought this on himself. The Mueller investigation is the result of the Comey firing. It was obviously a serious potential obstruction of justice the moment it happened. The Michael Cohen raid is the result of a long pattern of the president using, then a private citizen, Mr. Trump, using Cohen as his fix-it man and doing these hush money deals. And otherwise, Cohen was known as a notorious bully, pushing and pressing people. And the president has a long history in the private sector with Cohen, and then in the public sector as president, of pushing the law. And now the rumors about the Rosenstein firing, that would be more potential obstruction. So the president needs to take the sound advice that people are telling him: calm down, you're president, take a breath, let things unfold, have some confidence, unless, Brooke, there's something in those Cohen files, or there's some information that the special counsel has, and the president feels that fighting back, no matter how devastating, is better than facing justice.
Sure, well, that is just one of the pieces. We just don't know. Hang on, Gloria. I want to bring in Joseph Moreno, if I may, another voice here sitting with me in New York, former Justice Department prosecutor. And, you've been listening to Gloria and the ambassador talking about this Rod Rosenstein thread today, the fact that he has been consulting with this ethics advisor. Should he recuse himself? Should he not? We pointed out, he was key in that whole Comey firing memo that the president used, and people wondering, like a year ago, what's going on? What do you make of his moves or lack thereof?
Well, Brooke, Rod Rosenstein has been a consummate professional from the get-go. I don't think anyone who knows his background can question his judgment, his ethics, his loyalty, his honesty. So I have full confidence that he did the right thing then. He's doing the right thing now by running this past ethics officials. And if they told him all along that he can supervise the investigation, despite the fact that he may have been a potential witness back then, seems to me it makes sense that he would continue doing his job until and unless he's interrupted.
And so the fact that he wrote this memo, that he has been the target of the president's ire, would it be better in the end for him to stand his ground, chin up, and if he ends up being fired, then he's just another, player to fold, and in walks, I think it's the Solicitor General who would then oversee the Mueller probe?
That's his play. It's absolutely stand your ground. He is a career prosecutor. He knows right from wrong. He has seen tough times, perhaps not this tough, but at the end of the day, he has to do